Cześć kochani and warm welcome. Today I have a treat for every crazy lover of tomatoes who in the middle of the winter is dreaming about the juicy, sweet and fantastic flavor of those wonderful fruits. And of course the flavor is the huge reason why I really love tomatoes, but there is another one which is equally, if not even more important. And tomatoes are really rich in nutrients, full of vitamins, full of minerals, and specifically very high in one of the most powerful antioxidants called lycopene. And if you love tomatoes and if you eat a lot of them, most likely you heard the name before. If not, I will quickly say that lycopene is a carotenoid which gives tomatoes and other fruits and vegetables this red pinkish color. And it has so many wonderful health benefits. Just to name a few, it can prevent and help fighting cancer. It protects our cardiovascular system. It's a wonderful in lowering inflammation. And there is so much more. If you would want to learn more about lycopene, I encourage you to do your research, or you could go to my website. I have a whole blog post dedicated to this antioxidant. And now let's just start making our jars. So we will be preserving our tomatoes for later on, and for that the best tomatoes would be the ones that are more meaty rather than juicy with a lot of seeds. So typically Roma tomato is very good for that. And for years I've been making tomato sauce and pizza sauce in jars for winter, and I think it was last year when I discovered this very simple method of preserving either whole tomatoes or halves or quarters, and it will allow us to not only have it ready the preparation wise in about 10 minutes, but also it makes it a little more versatile. So later on, if you need tomatoes slices for salads or for sandwiches, you can easily use them. And if you need for the tomato sauce, all you have to do is just puree. So let's start. It's really very simple. And here I have jars. Those are 1 liter jars. And those jars, of course, I washed very well. If you want to do extra step of putting them in a boiling water for better sterilization, please do. I don't do that because we will be later pasteurize the jars in a high temperature. So I personally skip the step, and I never ever had problems with my jars developing any bacteria, any growths or spoilage. Okay, so it's good to pick tomatoes that are a little harder, not super soft, unless you want them to fall apart a little more. And if you like, you can first remove the skin, but then they will really become more on a sauce side. And when choosing tomatoes, also please make sure that they are healthy, they don't have any spots. I am going to leave the skin, and I'm going to just cut my tomatoes into quarters. You could do halves, you could even stack the whole tomato. It's completely up to you. So those I'm going to cut in quarters. And you see the Roma tomato has so much more of the meaty part and much less of the seeds. And if you really want to have just the meaty part, you can also remove the seeds and just use them, let's say, for making soup or use them in salad. So I am going to include them in my jars. All we have to do is to place the tomatoes in a jar without pushing them and squishing. This one is smaller, so I'm going just cut in half. This one again will go in quarters, and you just do that until you fill as many jars as you wish. And what is really interesting when it comes to preserving the nutrients, some of them, like vitamin C for example, will be destroyed by the high temperature. But if it comes to lycopene, the cooking and the heating actually increases its amount in the tomatoes and also makes it more bioavailable, because the cell walls fall apart when we use the heat. So it really shows how healthy for us is the tomato sauce or preserved tomatoes this way. Okay, so I have my jars ready here, and I'm gonna add few more pieces. Okay, so I filled my jars up to the neck. And another interesting thing, if it comes to lycopene, allicin, that it happened to be in garlic, also makes it more bioavailable, and good oil also increase the bioavailability. So what we're going to do here, and this is up to you, you can preserve them just like that without anything, or you can do what I'm doing, which is adding a little bit of fresh garlic. I use garlic absolutely to everything, so of course I will add to my tomatoes. And I think the combination of tomato and garlic and olive oil is just so classic and is so delicious, and basil too. Okay, so I'm just going to crush it just like that with my knife and stuck it there in my jar. 2-3 cloves per jar. There is really a lot of studies showing the health benefits of lycopene, and it is really especially very powerful if it comes to prevention and fighting prostate cancer, for example. And in the article on my website I also link some of the studies. Okay, so the garlic went in, and I'm going to add a little fresh basil. Thyme would be wonderful. Rosemary is so good too. I'm just adding a little bit. I don't want this to be overpowering. I will also make some jars without the basil. As you can see, I have such an abundance here, still a lot to process. So some of the jars I will make without the basil, some maybe with rosemary. Okay, and now another ingredient. So we need what I said before is that the fats also are making the lycopene more bioavailable for us. So I'm going to use my most favorite healthy fat, which is good quality extra virgin olive oil. I would say about a tablespoon per jar. And the last one here. And all we have to do now is to close our jars. And my jars are very dry here, but if you have a little bit of the acid from tomatoes, you might want to wipe the top with a clean cloth just to prevent the rusting of your cup. We will tighten it a little more after we take them out of the oven. And now our jars are ready to go into oven. So I'm going to place them on my baking dish. And here probably I can fit about 6 jars at once. We don't want those jars to touch each other, and they go into the oven. And the rule of thumb is, if we are working with cold food, like in this case, we are putting our jars into cold oven. And now we're going to check the temperature to 265 Fahrenheit. Or if you're working with Celsius, that would be 130. And we're going to leave it in the oven for 30 minutes. So the oven just beeped. So I turn this oven off, and I'm going to just slightly open it, just like that, and let it cool for about 5 minutes. And now we are ready to take our jars out of the oven. And now we're going to turn them upside down, just like that, and let them cool completely. After that, we can just turn them over, and they are ready to be stored in your pantry or in your cold room, just like you would store any preserves. Kochani, so now you see how simple it is, and if you don't want to spend a lot of time in a kitchen making a sauce, or if you're just looking for another option, this is definitely something that I highly recommend. Also, when, as I said before, when we preserve the tomatoes this way, they really keep this fresh flavor and this wonderful texture. Kochani, and I'm going back to processing the rest of my wonderful tomatoes, and I thank you so much for being here, and I'm looking forward to see you here next time.